Okay, so when I was standing outside the courthouse, David came up to me on the street and said, "Hey, I want to tell you my story." What'd you get arrested for?
Yeah, I've been put in handcuffs for scratching off lottery tickets.
Tell me about getting put in handcuffs for scratching off a lottery ticket.
Yeah, like it was a South Point cop. This was several years ago, and I was scratching off like the crossword tickets, the $5. Like it takes a while to scratch them off. And I was sitting in the parking lot of the gas station. I went and bought one. Came out. I scratched it off in the car. It took a while. I went back in, scratched it off again. Got another one, scratched it off. I was there for maybe 30 minutes. 45 minutes scratching off tickets, and as I pulled out, a cop was across the street and he immediately pulled out and got right on my ass and pulled me over. And I went to a place that I felt was safe to pull over instead of just like South Point doesn't even have sidewalks or anything. There's nowhere to pull over. So I pulled in. He immediately comes out with his gun drawn. He is approaching me, telling me to get out of the car. And then I'm saying, that's not necessary. What's going on? Because I don't do anything wrong. Sheriff deputy comes. They get me out of the car. I got out willingly because they had guns drawn on me.
So you scratch a lottery tickets. The guy goes to pull you over, and then so you're like, okay, let me just pull over a safe place. You pull over.
I went maybe 3 blocks.
Right, and so you pull over a place where there's cameras or lights, and then he comes up to your window and he's got his gun drawn.
Yeah, yelling at me, telling me to get my hands up. Get out of the car.
Why? What's his excuse?
Well, after I investigated what was going on, he thought that I looked suspicious sitting there in the parking lot.
That's a Terry v. Ohio stop. Yeah, that's a Terry stop.
And come to find out, I talked to because I was in there all the time in that gas station. I asked the girl that ran the register. I told her what happened, and she was like, "Oh, whenever you were sitting out there last night, he called and asked what you were up to, and I told him you were scratching off lottery tickets, that you had been buying lottery tickets."
Really?
And he said, "Well, I'm going to keep an eye on him anyway."
What?
And yeah, and then he proceeded to do that.
Okay, so you pull over, and he comes up with but now remember, you guys, he's already called the attendant at the store and said, "What's the guy in the parking lot doing?" And she tells him he's buying lottery tickets and scratching them off in the parking lot. And the cop says, "He looks suspicious to me anyway." He pulls you over, comes up to your window with his gun out. And so you're like, "Hey, what's going on, man?" Right?
Yeah.
And then another cop shows. Now, how long has got the gun pointed at your head for?
Probably a good minute.
And then how's that? What's the next thing that happens? Do you open the car door yourself, or do they open the car door?
I willingly got out because I was a little afraid. Even I pulled over in a place that was safe, like off the road, but it was not a place where there was anybody around or anything. So there was nobody to see what was going on. I was afraid I'd get shot and they'd just make something up. So I just got out willingly.
And then what happens when you get out?
They turned me around, pushed me up against the car, put me in handcuffs. I said some things about my rights. I don't remember exactly. It's been years ago. But I was saying this isn't right. You're violating my rights. And he was like, "You've been watching too much YouTube," and threw me in the back of the car.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How tight are the cuffs?
Pretty tight. The funny thing is they didn't search. They didn't search me before they put me in the back of the car. So I still had my phone. So I was able to call someone to come and witness what was happening.
Get the fuck out of here. So they don't even pat you down. They just want to put you in the torture cuffs.
Yeah.
They're not checking for weapons for their safety. They putting you in torture cuffs.
Yeah.
And then they put you in torture cuffs and throw you in the back of the car. You call a friend and say, "Get down here and film this."
Yeah.
And the friend comes down. And so how long are you sitting in the back of the car in the torture cuffs?
Overall, I was there for 2 hours in cuffs.
What?
While they tossed the car and didn't find anything. He claimed that I probably had something and just threw it out in the time that it took me to find a place to pull over. He thought that he says that I was buying time, trying to ditch whatever I had.
And so he's accusing you of drugs.
Yeah.
Because that's how police departments are funded, is by how many drug arrests they get. The more drug arrests the police get, the more funding they get from the federal government. That's what's going on. That's what's going on. You guys need to understand that. And that's from Richard Nixon's war on drugs. He literally incentivized the government, and then Reagan really accelerated, and then Biden triples down on getting civil asset forfeiture, stealing people's stuff, and so they can get more money for the police departments. So now he's accusing you of doing drugs. While you're arrested, how many interactions do the cops come back there? And how many times do they ask you, just tell us where the drugs are, just tell us where the drugs are?
I honestly, I would say there was probably only two interactions. It was a canine unit. They had to bring a canine unit, and well, I mean they didn't have to, but they took the dog around the car, and he took a toy and like put it up against the door and then laid it down on the ground in front of the dog slowly, and the dog like laid down. With the toy, as he lowered the toy, the dog laid down, and then they said that was an alert.
Okay, so let me just give you guys the legal score here. He's Terry stopped because the cop said he was suspicious. That's literally the definition of a Terry stop. The cop can decide he's suspicious. And then the 2013 case of Florida versus Harris allows cops to use a sniff test with their dog. And so they sniff test, and again, Florida versus Harris is an extension of Terry versus Ohio. So they're using Terry extended into Florida versus Harris to sniff around your car, and they incentivize the dog with a toy. And then the dog alerts on his car, and then he goes into torture cuffs. He goes into torture cuffs for 2 hours, and they tear your whole car apart. And wait a minute, so you must have a record.
I didn't have any kind of record. I didn't have misdemeanors or anything.
So
I was a complete innocent,
Wow, so you mean after they ran your plates and ran your license and saw that you had no record, they were sure you had drugs in your car?
Yeah, and after the clerk at the gas station said that everything was fine too.
After the clerk said that? So they put you in the torture cuffs for 2 hours. They search your car, they tear it inside out. How many cops show up?
I'd say 4 or 5.
4 or 5 cops?
There was a sheriff, South Point cop, highway patrol, and I think there were a couple of sheriffs. Yeah,
wow.
4 or 5.
Wow. And so so just do the math on that, guys. If they're making $35,000 a year and there's 5 of them, you got $100,000, $150,000 tossing a man's car who has no criminal record, that it's already been verified he's buying scratch-off tickets, and now they got him in torture cuffs for 2 hours. And then after they realize that you don't have anything in your car, what happens next?
Well, they found I had gone across town in South Point to get formula and diapers for my daughter because I was keeping her that night. So I had a stack of diapers and formula. It wasn't formula; it was like cereal, like that mushy cereal. I had it in a bag. And he found that, and that's the second time he came back to the car, and he was like, I found this, like, you just might as well tell me what it is. And
he found your baby formula for your kid?
Yeah, and I said, that's formula. It was sitting right next to diapers in the front seat in plain view. It's not drugs, I'm not trying to hide anything. And he said, well, I'm testing it either way. And he tested it, and he put his grimy hands all over it and got some out and tested it, and obviously it was negative because it's baby cereal.
Your baby formula is actually some sort of illegal chemical, and do they start the inquisition on you now?
I don't really talk a lot with the cops, like answer their questions. It's not never a good idea to answer the questions. It's only going to serve to make it worse for you. So I just said, it's not drugs, but whatever you're going to do, you're going to do it. And he did. And he pushed me a little bit, but he could tell that I wasn't good. I'm obviously not going to admit that it's drugs when it's not. So
he's trying to get you to admit that your baby formula is drugs?
Yeah.
How old is your baby at this time?
She would have been, an infant, less than a year old.
Is he opening up the formula and putting his fingers in it?
Oh yeah, it was just in a sandwich bag, and he opened it up, got in there, and then at the end of the stop, whenever they took the handcuffs off me and let me go, he tried to hand it back to me, and I said, I don't, it's tainted now. I don't want that, and he forced it on me, and I just took it and threw it in the dumpster that was right next to the car.
Because he stuck his fingers in your baby formula.
Yeah.
So you just had some. It's just incredible. And so you have a whole bag of, and so if this is drugs, by the way, just a couple scoops. If you've ever had any kind of drugs, a couple scoops of baby formula, that would be like $100,000 worth of drugs.
Yeah, it would have been hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of drugs if it was. And I wouldn't just be driving around with it in my front seat if I was that type of person, I'm sure. So.
Wow. Now, when they take you out of cuffs and they give you back your baby formula, they don't give you a ticket or anything, and then you're just supposed to go on about your way and have a nice day. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you file a complaint on the cops?
Actually, I did. It was never a formal complaint. I did call and speak with the chief.
And the chief said what to you?
Surprisingly, that officer was only in that department a couple more months, and supposedly because of things like that. So I'll give it to I'll give it to the, I don't know if he's still chief, but I'll give it to the
What was
chief
that
at the
cop's
time.
name?
Alfie Blevins was that cop's name. The
No,
one who pulled me
spell it,
over.
spell it. I want to track him down. What's his name?
ALFIE
ALFIE
BLE
BLE.
VINS.
Say the whole thing together.
Alfie Blevins.
Let's see if we can see if Alfie Blevins is still a cop. That's a pretty original name, Alfie Blevins.
Yeah.
So we should be able to track him down, Internet sleuths. We should be able to see if he's still a cop, because he wants to give the chief credit for getting rid of that guy. I don't think so. I don't think so. They're all in it together. Where's South Point at?
It's about 10 minutes southeast of Ironton.
It's in Ohio still?
Yeah.
So
It's the most southern point of Ohio. It's just right there.
So Ohio's just a total police state where they let cops do whatever they want to people.
Yeah.